From these come envy, rivalry, insults, evil suspicions, and mutual friction among people with corrupted minds who are deprived of the truth, supposing that religion to be some means of gain. Indeed, religion with contentment is a great gain, for we brought nothing into the world, just as we shall be able to take nothing away with it. If we have food and clothing, we shall be content with that. Those who want to be rich are falling into temptation and into a trap and into many foolish and harmful decisions, which plunge them into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all evil. And some people, in their desire for it, have strayed from the faith and have pierced themselves with many pains. 1 Timothy 6. Now, this week, we're going to be talking about money. Money and all of its problems. And so today, we're going to be talking about what's bad about money, what's wrong about money, all of the things that are issues. And so, let's jump right into that. You see, money has evolved over time, right? The first forms of money were not actually any physical thing, but rather a true store of goodwill with others. You see, in ancient Greece, what they would do, this is before they were a united people even, back when they were just individual city-states. They would take what they had in their community, go to another community, bring it to them. Say, hey, here's all of the stuff that we have. We have, extra meat and extra clothes and all this cool stuff. Maybe you want to try it. Maybe you want to have a look and have some. And they would just give it. And then, a year later, that other tribe would come over and say, hey guys, remember us? Yeah, now we have all this excess. We have all this meat and clothes and stuff and cool things to show you. And so, there was no buying and selling. There was just giving and giving back. That's what it was. But then, as our needs became more complex, and I shouldn't say needs, I should say desires. As our capabilities improved, well, we needed something else. And so, gold and silver, stuff that everyone likes, because it's shiny and it's precious and it's rare. And it's got some special, unique properties even. Well, then that was money. And now money's just paper. And that store of goodwill is not based on a promise of a friend to return the favor. It's not based on an actual physical thing that can, provide value. But rather, money is just a promise from the government that don't worry, we'll accept it as taxes. That's what money is now, a tax receipt. And we can trade around these tax receipts and we can say, hey, now you can pay your taxes. No, dude, you can pay your taxes. Hey, you can pay your taxes now, yeah? That's so great. That's all money is. That's the only reason it has value, is because it is the thing we can pay taxes with. That's it. And so, let's get into some of the things about why all of this is bad. Now, the first thing is the mindset shift when you have money is that you can buy people. Because back in the days of the Greeks, ancient Greeks, like old, like way before any of the philosophers we know about, even before the the people from Turkey, right, coming in. I totally forget what their actual name was at the time. Anyway, Persia, yeah, right. Way before that, back when Greece was just a bunch of people around. That's what they did. So they would just say, hey, here's some stuff. You get us next time. And so the expectation was, yeah, they'll probably give something back, but mostly because, they like the stuff we gave them and they probably want more. But if they never did come back, well, then you would just never go back. It's not like there was a payment. It's not like, they were supposed to be here. What happened? Like, if they had a bad harvest or something, they just wouldn't go. And it wasn't any, debt to be owed. And so, now that we have money, currency, the expectation's different. Where instead of just doing good things for other people and expecting that somehow, some way, some good's going to come back around to you because, you put good out into the world and good will come back. That's not the expectation anymore. Now it's not because of the compassion of the baker that you get bread. It's because you gave them money. And so now, in the same way that we buy things off the shelves of grocery stores, well, we buy the people and the time they spent to put those things there. And this is how we get this expectation that we buy people. We are allowed to buy people. That if we spend money with someone, then they're obligated to deal with us. That's how it goes. But that is a toxic thing, isn't it? Where you say, well, this person's my employee, I'm giving them money, and so I own them. I can, yell at them, be mean to them, undermine them, belittle them. I can do all that. Because for the 8 hours of a day I'm paying for, I own them. Maybe not 100%. Maybe I can't tell them to do anything. sexual harassment and all that junk, right? There's at least some protection for them, unlike the slaves of old. But you own them. And you know you own them because you can threaten them with non-ownership, saying, "Do you want to be fired?" Right? But that's an issue inherent with money. That is an issue with the concept of money. But it gets even worse than that. That back in biblical times, a lot of this stuff that we deal with today, it wasn't as big of a deal. It wasn't around as much. A lot of these issues that I'm going to talk about in this video are not inherent with money. They are add-ons. They are appended to money. Because yes, it's bad to be able to buy someone's time and feel entitled to who they are as a person. But in a sense, they offered it as an option. And so at least you can tell yourself, yeah, but it's voluntary though. But there's a lot of things with our money today that are not voluntary. And yes, it has happened in the past. But it's not always been this way. And so, what we're going to be focusing on this week is not merely why money is bad or that money is bad. What we're actually going to be focusing on is how to make money less bad. Because it's obvious with what I've described so far that yes, if we just didn't believe that you can buy someone else's time, that would be good. But at the same time, if you can't buy someone else's time, well then how can you get the stuff that you need? Well, you know my answer to that, which is make it yourself. But that world is a long way away. That's not the solution for today. But there are a lot of things that we could change right away about our money. And we wouldn't lose any of our economy or any of our productivity or any of this stuff. What we would lose is a lot of the greedy temptations that is bringing us so much pain. So, what are those issues? There's basically three. And they go around the same theme. That these three things make your money less valuable over time. It means that you can do a good thing today, that if you bought something right away, it'd be 1-for-1 parity. You do a good thing, and someone does a good thing back to you, because you spent it right away. But no, these three things, they incentivize different people to be greedy in different ways. That you're not allowed to just be a good person and do good things in the world and be rewarded for that. No, no, no. You have to go above and beyond that. Go even further. Do even more. Always more, 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 more. And so, first one is inflation. The government says inflation's good, as long as it doesn't go too far, right? They say like something like 2% a year. That's ideal. Like, oh my goodness, that's perfect. But you see, here's the thing about inflation. Inflation is invisible. You can try to predict it. And you can even try to see the effect of it. But it's actually an intangible thing. There is no calculation in which you can say, well, this is what inflation is. Because inflation affects different products differently. Inflation works very differently on corn rather than houses, rather than jewelry, rather than cars, rather than clothes. Like, everything is affected by inflation differently and different times and different ways. Take wages, for example. How does inflation affect wages? Well, often, not at all. That if you're lucky, you may just get a 2% a year raise. Oh my goodness. Making so much money here. But we accidentally did 4% inflation this year, so it's a pay cut. But it's invisible. McDonald's didn't say, now our burgers are 4% more expensive. It's not the dollar menu anymore, it's the $1.04 menu. No. What they do is they take an ounce of meat out of their patties. And then it's still $1. And you're not going to notice like an ounce of meat, maybe even half an ounce. Like, how could you tell that that was so different, that that was so much smaller? You can't. And that's the point. Is inflation is this invisible thing, taking away your standard of living, taking away everything you have, slowly, steadily, year by year, until you have nothing. But inflation is not inherent to money. There's many things that could be non-inflationary, or at least relatively neutral in terms of inflation. Back when we had gold and silver as our currencies, there would be times of inflation. You know, California gold rush, everyone finds gold, and then there's more gold in the world. And so the value of gold goes down. That's true. But until that gold was found, the price of gold was stable. The value of gold was stable. And there are even ways in which deflation would happen. Deflation is the opposite of inflation. Deflation means that if you have money and it's deflating, then your purchasing power increases over time. Now, why would that happen? Because you lived in a world where you worked and you helped 10 people. And those 10 people had 4 kids each. So now there's so many more people and so much more production and so much more stuff that the prices go down. That you have money and, money doesn't move instantaneously all the time. You have money, someone else doesn't, right? That's how it goes. And so in order to get that money moving again, prices go down. Because back when you were helping the 10 people, everything you did really mattered. It was really important, really vital that you did the work that you did. Because there's only 10 people, right? And so everything was imperative, everything was vital, everything was important. But now that everyone has 4 kids, there's, 40 kids, 50 people total. Wow. everything's a bit more chill now, huh? You don't have to freak out because you got more people to have your back. And so the work of that community is just a little less valuable than before when there was barely anyone. If you're deserted on an island, everything you do is a life or death scenario. But if the island has 1,000 people on it, you'll contribute. You'll make a difference. You'll do some good stuff, but you're not gonna die if you don't, or at least if you don't do too much. And you see, that is what deflation is. Deflation is a recognition of times changing and things getting better. And so, inflation is the opposite of that. Inflation is saying, somehow work now is worth more than work back in the day. And that's not because populations have gone down. No, that would be a legitimate reason. It's not because we've had some issue that has hurt our manufacturing industries. No, that would be a legitimate reason. No, it's because we wanted to print more money. Because we valued ourselves. Not you and the work you did. Screw you. Money for me, not you. That's what inflation says. And there's a similar thing. There's a similar thing to inflation that's wrong in similar ways. And that is reserve banking. Because when you put your money in the bank, it doesn't just sit there, right? They lend it out to other people. But you have it, and they lend it out. So it's not that you're investing your money. You're not. You have full access to it. So if you have 100% of your money, but then they're lending out your money, then they're just lying. Right? If you put $1 into a bank, and then you still have that dollar, but now someone else has 50 cents of your dollar, well, then they just made up money. They just invented it. And that is mostly how inflation happens. If you look at what the government's printing, they're printing like 7-10% a year. They're just cranking those bills out over and over again. Just tons and tons of money. Because they have to crank out like 10% a year of inflation in order to get an effective 2%. Because the banks, they're the ones who decide how much things are inflated. Because the banks have multiplied the money supply multiple times over. Because your dollar is in your pocket, and your neighbor's pocket, and their friend's pocket, and, the bank's pocket. Again. Like, your dollar is like $10. That's how it goes. Which is what's so weird about reserve banking. And that's why when the government prints a single dollar, well, it does not become $10. In fact, what probably happens is the bank gets that $1 and is like, yeah, we'll get back to that later. And they just hold on to the money because they know as soon as they start lending it out, that dollar is going to become $10, and all the dollars they currently have will be worth less. So they start lending a little bit less because they already have the money. They just lend a little bit less. And that contraction of lending makes up for the massive amounts of printing. And that's how this goes. inflation takes away your money, the value of your money. And reserve banking is just lies that your money is yours, because it's not yours. They're going to use it anyway. They're going to use it whether you like it or not. But then there's this third thing. And this third thing is the reason why they do any of this. Because the mindset is that you invest money to get a return. This is so basic and so fundamental to the way we look at money. Interest. That you make your money work for you. Now, in a sense, there's a legitimate reason for this. If you don't have any money, and so, hey, you want to work at Uber, but you don't have a car, right? Well, you get some money, you buy the car, and then instead of just having money, you have a job. And in a similar way, you could have money, and then you could build a house with using money to buy all the materials and pay for labor. And then you build the house. And now someone can live in that house. And so, you turned money into a real thing that provides value over time. That is the way interest works, right? Is that you take something that is meaningless, it's just paper, right? But you do a few exchanges for real stuff, and then that real stuff turns out to be useful. Hey, instead of money, you have a factory that can build and make stuff. You've got a 3D printer and you can make whatever you want now. That's real value. That's real increase in production. That's actually something that'll get you returns over time. But that's not what we're talking about when we talk about interest. We're not talking about you actually improving the world and making a difference. We're talking about you owning stuff and just getting money because you're an entitled owner of something. Because you own a stock, therefore I should get a dividend. I deserve a dividend. Well, do you work? Do you do anything to make the company better? No, but I own it. I have a house. Did you build it? Did you, do anything to improve it and build it up? No, but I own it. And therefore, people have to pay rent to me forever. There's this idea that you should loan your money to someone. Just give up your money, and then they should pay it back, not only the amount that you gave them, but even more. And you see, this is the thing that somehow justifies inflation and reserve banking. Because don't you know, we have to lend out money to people. And not just, as a favor. Not just as, charity. No. We deserve your effort, your time, your work, all of it. Precisely because we gave you money. And so now we own you. At least until you pay it back. So just pay it back. And you may be thinking, I'm overreacting. That yes, it's not great to be in debt. But at the same time, how would these people be able to afford a house if they couldn't get debt? How would they be able to afford to start a business if they couldn't get in debt? And this is exactly the issue. The world wasn't always this way. Let's take an example. College. Everyone knows that it is extremely expensive to get into college. Everyone knows that. You work hard, but in order to get into college, you not only have to be smart, you not only have to be a hard worker, you also have to give up gobs and gobs of money, like $100K. Like for the average college graduate, that's like, the first 2 full years pre-tax income to pay for 4 years. That's a lot. Another way to say it. You could go to college, or you could buy a house in some areas of the country. That's the difference. And when you put it that way, you say, well, that just seems so ridiculous. Why would you ever spend that much money? But that's the thing. It's not expensive because it costs that much to have a book and have someone stand in front of you and talk about that book. Right? Because that's mostly what college is. It's textbooks, and the professor stands in front of you and says, hey, I got this textbook and I'm going to talk to you about this. And look at that. There it is. And that's what they say. That's all they do. And they just teach you. Now, the professor, their time's valuable. And that book didn't come out of thin air. And your classroom had to be built. But $100K for 4 years of that? Oh no, but they feed you and house you as well. That's not where most of the money goes. So, that's what we're talking about here. Huge, massive expense. But, how did we get there? Because my parents, they didn't go into debt for college. They took side jobs. My dad paid for college by shoving pickles into pickle jars. Because, the conveyor belt would go by and it would shoot a whole bunch of pickles into the jar. But you could fit like one more pickle. And so he was like, huh! And that's it. That was his job. That was literally it. And that's what he would do all summer. And that would pay for his college. That's how cheap college was back in the day. That you can pay for college by doing this. Right? Just shove a pickle in. That's it. That's all you had to do. But now you have to give up the opportunity to buy a house. A house worth of money in order to get this same education. It hasn't improved. There's nothing more compelling about a college education today than back then. But now instead of pushing in pickles for a summer, we have to work years to pay off that debt. That's the difference. Now, why did that happen? Because some people, they said, well, pushing pickles into a jar for summer, oh my gosh, that's hard. That's hard work. You gotta go, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, that's hard work. You're pushing pickles, you bust up your thumb. You got all the pickle juice in the air. It's all salty, and then you come home and you smell all salty. Ah. What if I could just like borrow the money now and pay it back later? Yeah. I can just borrow the money now and pay it back later. That way I don't have to push those pickles. And so that's what they did. Oh, this person's in a low income neighborhood. So don't you know they're disadvantaged? They can't afford to spend time pushing pickles. Oh, no way. That would never happen. If they are able to have the same chance at college, I know that they can make it, and I know they can make a better life for themselves. So you know what? We'll pay for them. We'll lend them money, and they'll just pay us back when they can. When after they're in college and after they're out of college and they're making money. Aren't we so nice? Aren't we so kind? But with interest. And so, what happens is, when it's not your work, when it's not your effort that is paying for it, then, well, if we just move the price up a little bit, what's the difference between borrowing $1,000 and borrowing $1,100, $2,000, $3,000, $10,000, $100,000? You see, they can just keep upping the number because it's not your money. And the best part is, these are college students, meaning they just came out of high school. They don't even know how the world works yet because school never taught them that. But you see, the people lending the money, they do know how the world works. And they know that if you lend someone money and they have to pay back with interest, you own them. And so the fastest way to get a slave is to pay for a college student's tuition. That story has played out in every single area of our economy. It used to be houses would require 3 years of hard work, hard saving, hard budgeting, but after 3 years, you would get there and you would have your house and it would be paid off, no debt, no anything. And so you would have to live with your parents for 3 years. And oh my gosh, that was so hard, so difficult. Maybe you'd have to have an apartment in the meantime. Oh my goodness. Living in an apartment. Oh. But you made it through. You made it through. You work hard for 3 to 5 years, depending on your job, and you say, finally, now I can buy my house. Oh, it was such a slog. It was such a hard thing. No. I don't want to do that. That sounds like hard work. What if the bank just gives me money, and then I have money? That sounds good to me. And it's okay. It's okay, bank. You'll do it because I'll pay interest. And so now the bank's lending money. And where do they get that money from? From everyone else's bank accounts. They just take that money, copy, paste, boom. Now it's an investment. And that's how this goes. As long as people can get money now for no effort, what they're giving up when they take interest, when they give interest, what they're giving up is themselves in the future. And so they sell themselves out in the future for ease and convenience now. And that escalates because people become more and more desperate for it, where they say, well, I'll be a slave for 2 years. Oh, well, I'll be a slave for 5. I'll be a slave for 10. No, wait. I'll be a slave for 30. 30 years to pay off my house. That's how long I'm going to be a slave for. 30 years. That's why it's called mortgage. Mort as in mortality, as in death. It's an agreement until death, because you will die before you pay off this debt. That's where the expression, they bought the farm, came from. Because they would have a mortgage. And the clause was, if you die, you get the house. So, when you die, well, at least they bought the farm. That's how this goes. Is they own you until you die. It's slavery. It's wrong. And what's worse, it incentivizes greed. It incentivizes not only to make this person a slave, but to take that interest and then double down to have another slave. And then a third one, and a fourth one, and a fifth one, and a 10th one, and a 100th one, and a 1,000th one, and a 1,000,000th one. Until everyone in the world is a slave. Did you know that in most places in the world, people cannot buy their own house because it costs American dollars? The price is in American money. And so you look in a second world or third world country, they can't even buy a house. They can't buy land. Because even though the land might not even be that valuable, someone from a first world country probably owns it. Because this is the extent in which slavery has spread across the world. And this is what we're going to be talking about this whole week. We're going to be talking about how to fix money. Because money is the thing that motivates people to do this. People are sold that slavery is bad. Of course it's bad. Taking from someone else, especially the essence of their being, their work, their time, their choices, taking that from them, that's really bad. Everyone believes that. But when you take their choices because it's a college debt that they can't bankrupt themselves out of, well, they went to college. That was a choice, right? It was their choice to sell themselves into slavery. Why should they be able to get out of it? You can't change your mind about being a slave. You're a slave. And that's the thing. Is the more people that sell themselves out to be slaves, the harder it is for the people who don't want to be slaves. Because now, the person who wants to work hard and push those pickles into a jar, those are the people who can't anymore. They need debt. Because everyone else is taking debt. And so they can push those pickles every time. All the time. Every day. But that's not going to be enough. And so by the end of college, their hard work will have earned them only $40,000 of debt. Oh! Or you could be lucky like me and have a family that saved up for college. Oh, they saved and invested and made sure that they didn't use use the money they saved for me, even when it was hard, even when they were at the end of things, when things were so difficult and they said, I don't know how we're going to pay these bills, and there's money sitting right here, but we got to save it. We got to save it for him. You could be lucky like my family. And I only had $20,000 of debt. Oh, only $20,000. Whew. But you see, that was even a reasonable amount to pay off. And so I don't have college debt anymore because my family blessed me so much. That my family and my wife's family were so supportive of me. Oh man, I don't have any college debt anymore. Isn't that great? And all it took was years and years and years of sacrifice to only have $20,000 of debt. Oh, so nice. So free. I was only a slave for like 3 years, 2 years, something like that. Oh man. So good. That's where we are. That's what we're talking about here. And it's money that motivates people to act this way. And so, back to where we started. 1 Timothy 6. Tell the rich in the present age not to be proud, and not to rely on so uncertain a thing as wealth, but rather on God, who richly provides us with all things for our enjoyment. And that's the alternative. That's what we're going to be talking about. How to remove this temptation of money and how it currently works, so that way we can focus on the good things in life. Friends, family, and God. Because it was once so simple that they didn't even have money. They would make stuff for themselves, go across the way and say, hey guys, we thought you'd like this stuff. Maybe next year, come on over and return the favor. It used to be that simple. And we've made things complicated. And sometimes complexity can help. And sometimes it can obscure the reality of the situation. It can make you think, I'm not a slave. I just work for someone else, pay their bills, and I don't get to eat. Rather, you get to eat. You got your ramen noodles, your minute rice. Yeah. There you go. Is that you sacrifice for someone else's benefit precisely because everyone else wanted to sell themselves out as a slave. So, don't be proud. Don't think so highly of yourself that your work and your effort is somehow more important and more relevant than someone else's. That because you worked hard, you deserve an interest on your work. That you not only deserve parity for what you worked hard for, but you deserve more than that. You deserve to buy something that will give you money over time. More money. You spend money and you get money. So you can have more and more money. To do what with? Money doesn't buy happiness. And the love of money is the root of all evils.